Hey guys, what's up? Jesse Foster, aka Entranced here. I'm coming at you guys here with a short strategy segment on basic bluff calculation. What we're going to be going over here today is just how to calculate how frequently a bluff has to work in order to be plus EV and what the value of being able to do that is. Um, I think this is a skill. I say this about many things, but I think this is a skill that is very important for analysis in almost any poker situation. However, I think many players do not know how to do this in the correct way, and I think it's just very important. So, what this skill does is it will allow you to state some objective data. And what I mean when I say objective data is I mean that um, data that you know is fact. A lot of times in poker, we're dealing with information that is not absolute. We're doing it, we're making educated guesses based on what we perceive our opponent to do. Well, this is not that. This is scientifically, mathematically provable. And the more scientifically, mathematical, objectively provable things you can include in your analysis, the better your analysis is going to be. Um, so what we can do is what we're working out is how often does our opponent need to fold, and from there, once we've worked out how often our opponent needs to fold, given our bet size, from there we can work backward to seeing does he fold that much, and if he does fold that much based on our hand reading, is it a plus expected value bet? So sounds like a lot of mumbo jumbo. We're going to go into it right here, and I'm going to include a link to this forum if you guys want to go further. Yeah, so, okay, guys, so in part one, we're going to start with the simplest calculation. How often does a bet have to work in order to be plus EV? Um, This equation calculates how often a particular bet size has to work in order to be plus EV, or in order to be EV neutral. If our opponent folds more than the break-even amount, we are plus EV. So there's a couple of variables that you will need to know in order to do this calculation. One is your bet size, which is amount risked. And the other piece of information you're going to need is the current pot size. Um, and those two should be pretty easy for you to know. So the equation that we use is the amount risked divided by the current pot plus amount risked, and that equals what the break-even folding frequency is for them. This is how much they need to fold in order for the bet to be neutral expected value. For shorthand, I have it written out here, AR divided by P plus AR equals break-even. Um, so let's go into an example real quick. You're playing 100L with 100 big blind effective stacks. It folds to you on the button, and you raise to 3 big blinds with 2 unknown cards, and the big blind calls. The pot is now $6.50, and the flop is King 7 Deuce Rainbow. The big blind checks to you, and you bet $4. What is the break-even frequency for this bet? So here we have the numbers plugged into the calculation. The amount risked, $4, divided by the current pot. Current pot is $6.50, plus the amount risked is $4. That's the amount we bet. And we plug that in, and we will get 38%. So our bluff has to work 38% of the time for it to be EV neutral. If he folds more than 38% of the time, we're going to be plus EV on this bet. So yeah. Okay, so here's another example, one that I came up with, and this one is going to illustrate how we can use this in analysis of a hand. So here's another example. We're playing 5-10 no limit, heads up, and we open to 30. Villain calls in the big blind. He checks, and we bet $40. So there's a couple things we want to find out. First thing we want to find out is the objective data. How often does Villain have to fold? So let's go ahead and go over here and plug it in. The amount, the pot is $60. The amount risked is $40. and we just plug it in, we can see the equation right down here. Amount risked, 40 divided by the pot, 60, plus the amount risked, 40. And that is going to be the amount the bet has to work. So the bet needs to work 40% of the time. Okay, so now we've stated the objective data that the bet needs to work 40% of the time. How do we use this to say something meaningful? Now we have to take that objective data and match it up with our reads. This is where, hand reading comes into play. And hand reading is not objective data. Hand reading is almost always going to be subjective data. It's going to be based on their statistics of how they're playing, what the recent game flow, what hands we've seen at showdown. It's made up of just all the little tiny pieces of information put together, and that's how we make our hand reading. Previous information from when we played them before. What types of hands a player like this usually plays. So we're going to use that in an example here. So what I've done here is I'm going to use Combinator, and Combinator is a combinatorial analysis tool similar to PokerStove. And what I'm going to do here is work out, does the villain actually fold often enough, more than 40%, to make this bet plus EV? So I've given the board as King 5 Deuce Rainbow, and I've given us 7-3 off, so essentially total error, almost no equity. And what I've plugged in here is I've divided our opponent's range into 3 parts. One is pairs are better, so any pair he's not going to fold. Any ace-high hand, he's also not going to fold. And any gut shot or better draw, he's not going to fold. So, if we look at this chart here, it has broken down what percentage his range is. So, he has a pair better 31.5% of the time, ace-high 21% of the time, and he only has a gut shot 1.3% of the time. That's because he doesn't call very many hands out of the big blind that are going to make a gut shot on a King 5 Deuce board, or any draw. And so we can see here that if villain is folding when he doesn't have ace high or a gut shot or any pair, just basically playing straightforward, he's going to be folding 46.1% of the time. Okay, so how often did villain have to fold in order to be plus EV? 40% of the time. So, therefore, we can say villain is, this is going to be a plus EV bet. Now, most of you guys could look at this situation and say, well, duh, Jesse, C-bet is going to be plus EV here. It's a really dry board and not much of his range connects with it. True, and I think most players are going to be able to do that, make that type of analysis. But this sort of analysis becomes a lot more use. This is a very basic example, but you'll get into many more, but building the skills in these really basic situations will make it so that later on, when you're doing an analysis of a very complex hand history, you can use these concepts very easily. And there are a couple of assumptions that have been made in this hand, that villain won't be check raising bluffs a lot on this flop, which, sometimes he will, but for the sake of the analysis, we're just going to keep it simple. Now, if you want to be able to learn how to use this skill and get better at it, really the only way to do it is through repetition and kind of just going through the motions and thinking about it. And that's how it's going to embed it in your mind. So I strongly suggest that you use this form that I've created. It has, I think, about 30 or 20 examples, and just go through it, work it out, and submit your answers, and I will get back to you with corrections. We'll probably get them all right. It's pretty easy math, but don't feel bad if you do struggle with it a little bit. So yeah, do the work, and it'll work out. All right, thanks. If you guys have found this interesting and you think this is something that can help you with your game, please let me know. And if you're interested in learning more about this and getting into more complex situations um, that are going to be more usable for the average player, you might want to hit me up for coaching. Shameless coaching plug, but I can probably help you. And if enough people ask, I will probably make another video going over more complex situations. So yeah, I hope you guys have enjoyed this. Please give me some feedback, comment on this post, and share it with your friends if they don't know this stuff already. Alright, thanks. Bye.